And we get so used to hearing about judgment, and it becomes so familiar to us that it makes it more mild. And we don't realize the impact of that day of judgment. In the 1980s, there was a tornado that hit Mannford, Oklahoma. And Mannford was a place where I spent a lot of my growing up years. And I was in seminary out in California at the time that this happened. And I read it in the paper out in the San Francisco Chronicle about how a small town in Oklahoma outside Tulsa had gotten hit by a tornado. So my mom called. And I heard about it from my mom as she tried to describe what she had heard about it. And that kind of increased the intensity of it. And then I talked to my aunt about what had happened that day. And my aunt described how this tornado came rumbling through town during church, during the Sunday school hour. It came through and just flattened the grade school that I had gone to a lot of my grade school years at. It nicked the high school. It went and hit it kind of skipped over, just barely hitting the Assembly of God church. The only person killed in the tornado was a man who was in the Assembly of God parking lot. He wasn't in church. He was sitting there waiting for his wife to come out of church after teaching Sunday school, and he was the one that got killed by the tornado. Should have obviously been in church. He'd have been safe, but he wasn't. And then it went across the street, and it hit the Baptist church. And my aunt was in the Baptist church. She was teaching a younger children's class, and she describes how she had the kids under the table and how the walls began to come in on the side of the church, and the roof went off the church. And in fact, a car hit the top of the sanctuary. There was oil up there and oil in the church from a car striking it. And she just gave a greater detail, which made it even more vivid. And then when I went and saw the picture, saw what had actually unfolded and how it had happened, saw the destruction, devastation, it even became more powerful. And I found out that the closer I got to the source, the more powerful the truth became. And there's going to come a day when we are going to be powerfully impacted by this idea of judgment, because we'll be firsthand seeing it. And we want to make sure we are prepared before those events roll over us, roll over our experience. We want to make sure that we are in Jesus Christ. And Paul is saying that the same God who justified us by his blood has secured us from that terrible type of event, an unfolding of a horrible thing. Tornado is nothing compared to what will happen when the judgment. The judgment is described as a lake of fire. It's described as eternal. And that should even more so cause us, like Paul is trying to do, to warn others about the consequences of rejecting the blood of Jesus Christ. But God has done more than we can imagine to assure us of our condition, that when we are in Jesus Christ, we are also secured. We are saved from the wrath of God through him.